Well, well, well.
If it isn't the floating heads of Ben, Noel, and Matt.
Yes, yes. This is stuff they don't want you to know. Uh, they call me Ben.
It is I, Noel.
And I suppose that makes me Matt.
Oh, good. Just by like logic.
Mm-hmm.
Guilty by association. Yeah.
So, guys, we are here to talk about a thing we did in addition to our podcast, which is a book called "Stuff They Don't Want You to Know."
Oh, I
Right?
thought you were talking about that thing we did in The Hague. I was
Uh,
concerned. We don't have to talk
ah,
about that today, right? Okay.
oh, maybe that's a different.
Okay.
Maybe
Cool, cool, cool,
maybe
cool,
that's
cool,
a
cool.
different one.
Hey,
So,
I didn't get the memo.
yeah.
I didn't have a copy to hold up. I feel left. It's okay. It's okay. They're all upstairs.
It's in the email, Noel.
Was it really?
Yes, it's a book that is filled with illustrations such as this one. Look at those guys. That's not
It's
us.
mainly a picture book. Yeah.
That's not
From
us.
our pal Nick Turbo Benson, who does a lot of work for music we love as well, such as Run the
What is it?
Jewels.
Is it
Yeah.
that thing?
hmm
That's the
Yep.
sorry. That's the one. Yeah. Okay.
That is. So guys, maybe we kick off just spending a few minutes talking about what stuff they don't want you to know is, and welcoming everybody who tunes in. People like Sarah S, who says, "Love you guys." Thank you so much, Sarah. We are apparently live on Facebook and a couple other social media platforms. Oh, and Jane's coming in from Ireland. Thank you, Jane.
The Irish love us for some reason. I don't know.
So what is stuff they don't want you to know?
It's a podcast that started as a video series and then went back to video. It's really an intellectual property.
Whoa.
That is a critical
of iHeart Radio.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
Incorporate it. Yeah.
No, it's something that Ben and I started a long time ago as a video series, and then we joined up with our buddy Noel here to create a podcast. And it's just a critical thinking look at all things mysterious and conspiratorial. And we've been doing it for so long, we've kind of watched the world, or at least the social media world of conspiracies, really evolve. So
I thought you were going to say watch the world burn, which is I was going to agree with, but what you said also holds true.
Oh, and
Yeah.
shout out to Wesley, who says, more of this, a monthly live episode online. I like how Wesley is raising the stakes here.
Wesley, come
I'm
on,
into
man.
it. We are, in
I-
fact,
yeah, I could do
human
it.
people, not just disembodied floating heads, even though that's how
Well,
you're
two things,
experiencing us
yeah.
right now. Yeah.
So shout out to everybody who has supported this show. We started a number of years ago, I think a decade ago, and Matt and I were convinced that we were going to immediately get fired for exploring these sorts of questions. And the only reason this show exists in any form is because we have been able to gather together with a community of people across the world who are asking the same sorts of questions. So when Noel, Matt, and they call me Ben got together about this, we started asking ourselves, why are some questions not allowed to be asked, right? What defines a conspiracy? When did conspiracy theory become a bad word, right? And so
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and it's
so
really a history show too.
Yeah.
Because I think as we were both growing up, no, I'm not trying to exclude you from this. This is just
Okay,
part of the
I'm not growing
initial
up yet.
No, but it's part of the initial
I'm not-
conversations in the creation of the show. We looked back at some of the things we held as fact that maybe had been taught to us or we had kind of learned on our own. And, with the advent of the internet,
Mhm.
a lot of cracks were, let's say, visible all of a sudden in some of the things that we saw as foundational in our view of history. And I think that was also really important to like what became of the show and like how we started the show.
Well, it's interesting too, because now in this day where the internet is just kind of part of the equation, like I've got a 14-year-old who just grew up with that, and there's never been a world that didn't have that as an opportunity. And for some, that means much more objective understanding of world events and history. For others, it can be a very dangerous rabbit hole that can take you to some nasty places if you let it, or if you don't temper it with that critical thinking that we're talking about, and that's so important to all of us and to the show. So I think that's one thing we try to do, is always steer people who maybe are potentially going down that path towards the more critical side, where you can actually question what you're being told, because the internet's a great source of knowledge, but it's also a great source of disinformation. And if you take it, at face value, it can be very dangerous.
I agree with that. Also, to go to the point of critical thinking, shout out to Sarah S., who says, "That's what I love about this critical thinking, very well balanced, thought provoking." Thank you, Sarah. Additionally, one of the reasons we describe ourselves as conspiracy realist is because words are an original human technology for the most part, and they have power, right? So when we think about critical thinking, what we're describing is an unbiased, objective attempt to leave no stone unturned, to interrogate the things that, as you said, Matt, are often taken for granted, right? When we object to the term conspiracy theory because became a thought terminating cliche, it became a kind of cognitive shorthand, right? I would even think, Noel, Matt, I would say we could even reapproach the phrase critical thinking because people don't like criticism, right? So maybe we could call it deep thought, right? Or we could call it objective thought. It's very
Highly
strange.
considered.
Highly considered. Okay, yeah, and in the parts of the world where cannabis is currently legal, we're probably going to have some highly considered comments, which I am super on board with.
I
By
just
the way,
caught that double entendre there.
yes, thank
Hey,
you. Yeah.
guys, I just want to announce right here in this moment, I've
Yeah.
got the YouTube live feed open, and we
Uh-huh.
officially have 3 people watching right now, and I think one of them is me. So, Sarah, if you're still watching, this is like a private show for you.
No.
And
There's
whoever-
other ways. This is not the only way to get the stream, Matt. Don't
Mhm.
sell us short here. That's just one of numerous inroads to this particular
Sure.
broadcast.
Have you guys ever been in a theater alone?
Mhm.
Like a whole
Yeah, it's
movie
awesome.
theater? It's one of the
I
best
love it.
feelings
Yeah.
ever.
Remember
It's
that
a
movie
liminal
Spaced-
space.
Spaced Invaders. It was
Mhm.
about a bunch of stoner aliens. I
Mhm.
saw that by myself in a theater when I was a kid, and I did shadow puppets on the screen. No
Mhm.
idea what happened in the movie. It was fun.
I love spaces that are often meant to be crowded when they're empty. I used to only go to grocery stores in the wee hours back pre-pandemic when they were 24-hour stores because I like to just walk around, and you guys know me. I go on night walks anytime we're on the road. We're going to be on the road soon. Again, no spoilers, folks. But we wanted to take some time to chat with everybody about how this show came to be, what this show has become and is becoming, and perhaps most importantly, before before administrative forces pull us away from things, we wanted to be very clear that this show only exists because you have spent the most valuable currency of this age, your time, supporting the show. And for that, I think all three of us are grateful.
Yes.
I concur.
Oh crap, we all agreed? I thought we were gonna all right. Well, we also, as you know, longtime listeners, fellow conspiracy realists, we don't always agree, but that's the background for our show. And we have at any given time innumerable projects that are going beyond the podcast, beyond what you might think of when you think of the word podcast. So we have this book that we worked pretty ardently on, and we actually got a lot of questions from some of our fellow listeners. Noel, Matt, Noel. What are some of the questions that really stood out to you guys?
Let's see. Tab around here a little bit.
I got one.
Okay, let's hear it.
It's a tiny little story. Okay. Has anyone prominent or famous or government officials responded to any of your conspiracies? That's an interesting question.
Mhm.
I would put a couple things up here. The most prominent government official I've ever. No, wait, that's not true either. I talked to Jesse Ventura on Clubhouse one time, and it was amazing.
That's true.
Former
Yeah.
Governor Jesse Ventura.
Unrelated to the program, though, right? Yeah.
Unrelated, but we did talk about the JFK and MLK assassinations.
I believe all three of us once saw Will Smith in a hotel lobby.
Yeah.
Also unrelated to the he didn't hit us or anything. We did. Dan Harmon reached out to us because he liked the show, and then he started posting content where he was like listening to the show, and sort of like we mentioned his name, and he posted a clip of us mentioning his name while he was listening in his car, and he made like a conspiracy face. That was cool. We like Dan Harmon. Dan.
Let's see. In terms of prominence, yeah, we run into quite a few people who are fellow listeners or conspiracy theorists who might be considered famous or notable or prominent in their spheres. We talk to a lot of authors. We love primary sources. In terms of government officials, I don't know how much I can say on a live social media platform, but we have.
Wait,
we
is
have
that real?
That is real.
It's okay. It's just us, man. You can
Yeah. It's
We have,
literally just us.
we have
And Sarah.
received we've received a lot of communication depending on questions we ask in the show, and that's really the nature of the show, is figuring out which questions to ask in a productive way and exploring the claims involved. So I would mention, like, you guys remember we did a series on assassinations, and we talk about assassinations in our book, and we received a couple of very polite diplomatic communiques.
Cables. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure. From people with experience in sort of targeted operations, and we also get responses from veterans in the of the U.S. Armed Forces and abroad regarding various questions we have asked, and that's the thing that goes beyond this show. If you ask questions sincerely and well considered, then people want to help you answer them to the best of their ability.
Well, also we'll get information and communications from folks on the ground in ongoing conflicts. For example, what's been going on in Iran, and that is a really valuable way, especially folks who are maybe in danger of sending those kinds of communications. And I'm not trying to be overly dramatic here. I mean, that's absolutely a thing. So for people to trust us enough as purveyors of the truth, I would posit, that's awesome. And also for them to be in a situation where they could actually have negative consequences for reaching out. Obviously, we hold those sources very, very close, and we're very, very careful with that information and making sure no one identities get out. But that's always very moving and meaningful, to me. And I think all three of us, when those kinds of things come through.
I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I am, just for an example, I am currently in a conversation with someone who is going to the commemoration day of the protesters who were hanged in Iran as we speak. So that's the thing you have to understand about the idea of conspiracies. These things are real. And sometimes we are talking about very deep geopolitical things that powerful people would rather you not hear about. And then other times we're asking, again, honest questions about stuff that didn't occur to us until we looked into it. Like, I think one of our favorite recent episodes was the question about glitter, right? Who was buying all the glitter? We went on the radio to ask the question. We have spoken with colleagues. We still don't know. And that goes to a question here from Minnesota, from London. named London in Minnesota. Here's the question: Do you think? Do you actually think Britney Spears is free? You guys are much more plugged in to the world of music than I am. So, like, remember we did the Britney Spears episode?
Of
Before we answer
course.
that, yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
noticed you called out the person and where they are. I did not call that person out for the question about prominent or famous government officials.
Mhm.
That question came from Lindsay in California. Okay,
Thank you,
let's get to
Lindsay.
Britney Spears.
You sure it
Yeah.
wasn't California and Lindsay? Sorry, that was a joke because there's
No,
one.
it's
Never
worth it.
mind.
It's worth it.
Okay,
Worth
okay.
it. Worth it.
Yeah, no, I mean, Brittany obviously was under a very prohibitive conservatorship for
Sure.
many years. That was essentially headed up by her father, who we
Mhm.
know had a very divisive relationship with her and was basically, keeping tabs on her spending and, where she was allowed to go and things like that, but also all the while profiting from her doing these residencies in Las Vegas and all of that. And of course, recently the news came out that she successfully was able to get out from under that conservatorship. And therefore, the question, of is Britney free? That's sort of tied into this whole notion of when she was under that conservatorship, her social media presence. There's a lot of, chatter about how maybe she was communicating coded messages about her treatment and about how,
Mhm.
extreme the kind of under the thumb situation might have been for her. None of that was particularly well proven out, but it was certainly fodder for a lot of folks in these kind of free Britney communities to talk about. And I think we're also, we're seeing a very a woman who has dealt with fame from a very young age, who kind of had a very public, mental health crisis that then resulted in being treated in a way that a man would never be treated. I just want to put that out there. I'm not trying to like stand on some feminist soapbox here, but I just do think that it's very clear that the way Britney Spears was treated would never happen to a man. We know all kinds of men who have publicly struggled with drug abuse, domestic abuse, all kinds of things like that. And you never hear about them being, shoved into some sort of conservatorship where they have some
Right.
overlord telling them where to spend their money.
Right, but you're not the lone voice on that. I think all 3
Absolutely
of us
not.
are in agreement. That's a collective soapbox, and it's just true. Like our pal Bridget Todd said, uh, the internet hates women or female identifying people. That's just a reality. I would go so like this is something we discussed in our previous episode as well on the idea. Uh, about the conservatorship. And I love that you're pointing that out because it was a very real thing. And every time you see something like that sort of framed through that idea of celebrity, we have to realize logically that means there are untold numbers of people who are not celebrities who are suffering through the same terrible, terrible things, right? Like abusive conservatorships are not limited to legendary pop stars. Do I sound off base on there?
Not
No,
at all. It's just one that was kind of on display front and center for everyone to see, especially through her writing on the internet and her, kind of very confessional, outings of her sister and the way she was treated by her and her father and all of that stuff. I mean, she really did kind of come to a point where she wasn't going to be quiet about it anymore. And then that led to kind of a groundswell of support. And then she did get out from under the conservatorship. The question of is she free, though, is an interesting one because not to get overly conceptual or anything, but
Who
she's
is
still
free?
yeah, and what is free, and she's still part of that kind of patriarchal society, organization that is like the entertainment industry, and she's probably got enough money to just hang out and do her thing and not have to worry about that anymore. At least she can spend her money as she chooses now. But also, is she free of being just permanently in the public eye? I think when you look at her posts, I do see the signs of someone who's had dealt with some trauma, and dealt with some things that are probably going to haunt her for the rest of her life. I hope she's okay. And, seems she just got married and seems to be doing well in that respect. But I do worry, about how all of this stuff, the marks that it leaves, that it kind of carries, on for the rest of one's life.
Is
Matt.
it okay that I don't worry about Britney Spears
It's
on a regular
fine.
basis?
100%.
It's totally
And
fine.
and
I
it's not
mean,
that I don't like
yeah.
her or
No,
I don't care.
Yeah.
It's just like, think about her career started before it was possible for a private person to publicly comment on a
Mhm.
prominent person's private life. Whoa, that's a lot of P's.
100%. No, you nailed it. It's a good question, Matt. And also it's I don't think it's bad. That's just my take. I have a question for you from Greg over in Florida. So let's start here. What's
Cousin
been
Greg.
what's been a highlight of all working together on the podcast? Matt, let's start with you.
Highlight of just working together on a collective thing like this on one pursuit. It's like having I've been watching a lot of chef based reality shows on Netflix
Yeah.
lately. It feels like being on a really good team making a dish every time we get into the studio. And you can feel each other all kind of doing, I would say Ben's probably the head chef, and then Noel and I are like, what do they call that? Oh, I'm already losing the nomenclature. Sous chef and and a line cook. I'll be the line cook all day. I'll feed some of the stuff to y'all all day. It feels good, is what I'm saying. It's like a machine that we know how to run really well at this point, and it's with my friends, so it's not like it's a job. It's a well-oiled machine that is not a job, and I still get paid enough to support my son, so all good.
What about you, Noel? How do you feel about working? What is, to Greg's question, what is a highlight of working together on stuff that I want you to know?
Yeah, well, I mean, I actually, like you fellas. So that's fun. Just hanging out and working in an environment with people that I like and respect and have interesting things in common with and things to talk about. It's not something that everybody is able to say they have in their professional lives. And to Matt's point, I also I'm very lucky that the three of us can just have these conversations and also have our own separate pursuits, independent of the podcast. Like I like to make records and record bands and make electronic music. And, being on this podcast affords me the ability to do that and not have to worry about, producing every jam band that gives me a call. So that's cool. But I also just love having conversations and getting to the nugget of truth in these kinds of conspiratorial topics, because there usually is a little bit of that. There is some, what Matt always refers to, or we all three refer to as kind of the pearl or the piece of sand in the oyster that kind of creates that pearl by kind of roughing things up and causing problems. And then ultimately you'll find this pearl of truth in there. So that's always fun to find. It feels like we're always kind of on a Scooby-Doo mystery of the week kind of. I'm not sure. My question to you, it would be, which of us would be which Scooby-Doo character? Can I be Shaggy? Everybody wants to be Shaggy. Maybe nobody wants to be Shaggy.
As long as I could be Scoobs.
Yeah, you want a Scooby snack?
Yeah.
Proof. There you go.
Hey Jay, welcome to the stream, sir.
Jay said he already got his Christmas presents. Well, Jay, better late than never, right? As Cheech Marin famously said in Ghostbusters 2.
Ben, I got a
What was the
question for you.
Oh, okay.
What is your favorite? Oh, wait, first, this comes from Rachel in Ohio. What is your favorite chapter or section of the book?
Some of the ones that got cut out, if we're being honest.
Oh,
Yeah, some of the redacted stuff. I don't know. I think that's a tough question for all three of us to answer, Rachel. We worked pretty assiduously rather, on this book. Oh, you're holding up our baby. Propaganda, chapter 5 says Mr. Frederick. So
Mhm.
that's our propaganda, harkens back to the very first episode of the audio podcast that we did. It is about a man you need to know about. If you're somehow tuning into this, first, thank you. Secondly, if you're tuning in and you don't know about Edward Bernays, you need to know now. You need to go read books like Propaganda, available free online. by that guy. He's called the father of public relations. He's also very much a Sith Lord of information warfare. Would you guys agree with that statement?
Absolutely. I mean, propaganda, essentially. The way it's used to sell products is the same way that it could be used to sell ideas.
Or
Like
wars.
wars. Oh, jinx.
Jinx. So Matt, that's your favorite chapter. Noel, do you have a favorite chapter of the book?
I really am interested in the human experimentation stuff because it's the kind of thing you think only Nazis do that. Not so. We've done that as a country, with things like the Tuskegee experiments or the Tuskegee trials, all of that. And then also various ways of testing the dispersion of chemical agents over, impoverished communities and things like that. Things we think no one would notice. The idea of dosing, unsuspecting train passengers with psychotropic drugs. We've done that. It's just the kind of thing you think only other people do that. We don't do that. Well, that's just not true.
That's
right.
like chapter 1 or 2, biological
warfare, human
that's chapter 1.
experimentation. Yeah. Also, shout out to Adele over in California. Shout out to Aaliyah C over on Facebook, both asking, will you be doing tours, you guys, in 2023? Are you going on tour anytime soon? Adele specifically asked, put Southern California on the list. I think it's accurate
Adele
to say
in California.
The
Adele in California.
Love your high notes.
Well, the
great warble.
The main thing is that we love being on the road. We love doing live shows, and hopefully we can do some in the future. What do you guys think?
I want to. We've done in the past, and I can't wait to do it. And for the record, I'm looking at my phone because I'm just posting that we're doing this on our Instagram so that other people might be aware of it and join. I'm not just dicking around on here. But yeah, touring is so fun. We love meeting everyone that likes the show and that has a relationship with us. Many folks that we have a relationship with from DMs.
I see you got Matt, you should go on the IG and put a selfie in. Put a picture of yourself.
I don't understand.
Well, I just reposted the one that I had posted on my personal just to get it done.
Yeah.
And now I'm doing another one that just says live now because I'm a social media maven. But no, cannot wait to tour.
I don't know how to do any of those things. What I can do is talk to somebody who's, I don't know, at a bar or venue where we're hanging out in Philadelphia. So we should do that kind of thing again because I like that.
Yeah, agreed, Matt.
I just don't know how to do the other stuff. I'm sorry, guys. Nobody follows me anyway, so
I follow you to the end of the earth.
We had so many good times when we last went on a big tour together. You guys, we rented what was it? It was a Ford Edge, and we drove that sucker all up and down the East Coast. Just the three of us, listening to strange things in the car sometimes Rage Against the Machine. That was a hot one. Made several weird videos, stayed at multiple, let's say, intriguing hotels that we could afford. But yeah, that was a really good time. Should definitely do that again.
Had good dive bar lobster in Boston. Nothing like ordering a whole lobster at the bar, literally sitting at the bar. Yeah, it was awesome. There was a place called Nancy's, something I can't remember now. But it was a really cool little bar where you could get a lobster.
So here's another question. Lucas from Texas asked, are you ever scared or nervous about the backlash from the general public?
What? Is that a threat? Backlash from the general public?
I mean, I think we're all aware that we're being watched, that we're being listened to, and we try not to put our collective foots in our mouths. We just try to be respectful, and occasionally we someone might mistake our intention and something that we say, and they will yell at us. I don't think that we're so, walking on eggshells that we don't say anything meaningful for fear of being yelled at by the internet, but it's certainly something we're aware of. We just try to make sure people are comfortable and know that we're coming from a good place and that we're always trying to do our best and representing the topics that we're talking about, and never trying to belittle anybody or any group or anybody, anything.
Research leads me into a lot of weird spaces, writing stuff for the show. I get a couple of about once every 2 months or so, I get a couple of letters asking me whether I work for some sort of alphabet, some sort of alphabet boy scenario. I find those letters amazing and very flattering. I can confirm here live on social media that I do not, in fact, work for the Central Intelligence Agency.
You're just an attorney.
Right? Right, just a tourist. We
Has
do
anyone seen The
love
Recruit? No? Okay.
yeah,
Right.
we do love, of course, I think all three of us love the character Steve, the NSA intern. Steve, if you are hearing this, hope things are going well. Thanks for tuning in, man.
Good old Steve. How's he doing anyways? Is he all right? He hasn't been around as much lately.
I don't know. I haven't seen Steve in a long time. Is he good?
It's hard to say.
Ben, is he? Do you have Steve? Is he okay? Or it's okay? No. All right.
Steve is doing pretty well as far as we can tell. We got a couple other questions here. Let's get to let's see.
Dubrovko.
Yeah, let's go there. Wait, let's hear that question, Matt.
Dubrovko's from Fort Worth, Texas, and Dubrovko says, "What stuff they don't want you to know have you learned that has changed your politics and or how you look at the world?" Ooh, I'll give you an example right off the top. I don't mean to just keep talking, guys, but here it goes. A long time, Ben and I looked at politics within the United States, and when we were making just videos back in the day, and it was specifically looking at the lobbying industry and the main sources of campaign donations for both the Republican and the Democratic Party in the United States. And we pulled on that thread to such an extent that you can then look back through history and see the changes of either party. Like, I don't know if you call this waves of like support for different things that become the major campaign talking points over the course of a decade, and how they ebb and flow. And, if you find yourself feeling more liberal right now, you're supporting probably the Democrats, but go back just a few decades and you would be a hardline Republican, and,
Absolutely.
Vice versa. So it's really interesting. I think we found, just through doing the research on that and the video on that, Ben, personally, I found that I in no way trust or am in any way interested in political talking points, and just immediately it like shut me off that day. I think when I finished the video and we published it, there was a funny video that we did where it's Ben and I pretending to be political candidates. And I remember the day, dude, we published that video, and I was like, well, I'm done. I'm not posting on Facebook with, whatever thing I feel is super important anymore. That's it. I'm done.
And you've held to that. And it's at the idea of stuff they don't want you to know is always at its best when everyone involved, including those of us longtime listeners joining us today, it's always best when we're moving as a unit, and I think that's where you see it worthwhile. That's where you see it become worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, I think when this came up in the episode we just recorded a little while ago, I really have no illusions that despite all of the insane rhetoric that we see nowadays in politics, that either side winning or losing really changes the game that much. Therefore, I'm not saying I don't vote. I vote. I vote in every election, especially the tight ones, all of them, because that is a right that we have and should exercise, and I fully support that. I think as do we all. But I really have no illusions that outside of some pretty big moves that any major change is going to be affected just because you elect the person on the left or the person on the right.
Just quick check-in, everybody. According to YouTube, there are 8 people watching right now.
Oh, what a time.
Whoa,
Thanks for
thanks
for the ongoing tally, Matt.
we have almost tripled our viewership.
I'd like to also thank our pal Olivia, who is running the backstage. Now, longtime listeners, it's very important to me that credit be given where it is due. The only way we're able to do this show is because you are here supporting it. The only way we're able to do things like this is because there are a ton of people who don't get a lot of credit for their work, who are making things happen. So what I love about what you're saying, Matt, regarding that presidential video is that I think that's one of the times that I had really tried to butter you up, right, man? And I was like, come on, you're so good. For people who don't know, let me brag about Matt Frederick for a little bit. We're live. And Matt, I'm going to read the body cues and I'm going to ignore what you're saying. So I can see whether or not this is cool. Matt Frederick, in addition to being an amazing musician, is also one of my best friends and so amazing on camera. So we're very lucky to have Matt. I feel like Matt, one day you're going to be that lead in this amazing, like either a blockbuster action film, a rom-com, an indie. I know we're supposed to talk.
I'm going to Chris Pratt this whole thing.
Chris Pratt, Matt Frederick.
God.
So
I could do a way better Mario voice
with that
right now.
Yeah, with that, not to. I would rather put focus on you guys than myself. So what would be your ideal roles as leads in a film? Because I know we're all film nerds.
I want to play Ben Bowlin in the Stuff They Don't Want You to Know major motion picture.
That's tough. I want to play Fro Hickey in the remake of The Lone Gunman.
I don't know who that is.
That's the guy that you play in the.
Oh yeah, the little toady looking guy. Yeah,
but I want to play.
Super flattering. That'd be cool. That'd be cool. I like. It would be a transformation. You'd probably get some Oscar buzz, at the very least Golden Globe buzz.
Yes. Now, Ben, tell me what you have to go. You have to go now too.
Oh, I have to go on this question?
Yes,
I haven't gone on like any of these questions. Okay.
Well, we're trying to include you.
Okay. Oh, okay. So, I guess primarily for a role in a film, I love a good Ninth Gate. I love a good conspiratorial investigation. Given my previous pursuits, there's an Indiana Jones in there somewhere.
There's a new one, isn't there?
There is a new one coming out, Indiana Jones 5, trailer released. There's also, Dark City. You guys remember Dark City?
Yeah.
That's an amazing film, right?
No, but I think you're right, dude. The Ninth Gate, I think, is right on for you because it's that conspiratorial investigation that goes into like heaven and hell kind of stuff, and you go way too deep. Like you don't even realize how deep you are until
Who's the famous older fellow that's in that.
Depp,
Johnny Depp.
Oh. No. That's funny. No, it's like
keep going back to
who the heck is it? It was a Roman Polanski film, wasn't it?
Oh, was it?
I'm pretty sure it was.
Oh,
well, you can't win them all.
Okay, look, okay.
No,
I'd love any role Robin Williams played.
What Dreams May Come.
What Dreams May Come, #1 with a bullet. That one. Also, there's another question. We spent some time here. We want to get to the questions for everybody who supported us. So one of the other questions would be from Cameron in Indiana. What made you guys want to come out with a book and why now? Before we answer that, shout out to Josh S. on Facebook, who says, I usually listen to you at 1.9x, and I've never seen your
Jeez,
YouTube
Josh.
videos, so this is a bizarre experience after listening to you for years. Josh, these are our real faces. But
This is what our voices actually sound like. Not like this when you're listening to this one on a podcast when we're talking like this.
You know, if
So,
you
yeah.
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, you go. You.
I was just gonna say, if you take an Alvin and the Chipmunks record and play it at slow speed, then the Chipmunks become regular people, and Dave becomes the devil himself. Just putting that out there if anyone wants to try a trippy record experiment.
Nice.
So, why the book? Why a book? Why now?
What
You should answer that.
Yeah, I think that's you, man.
I'm knocking out the questions. So doing the amount of research and writing here, this book is something that has been the result of more than a decade's worth of investigation, of thoughts, and it's prioritized in a strange way. This book is largely about power structures and how they may use their power to the detriment of human society. I think that's a
Yep.
pretty good spoiler-free way to put it, maybe.
No, that's perfect. And it doesn't matter which political party those power structures seem to be supporting at any given time. And we're not saying deep state here necessarily. We're saying it's money powers and it's I forget the terminology, Ben, but it's real power. We're talking about military. We're talking about government, but not the ones that you vote for every couple of years.
Oh, Facebook listeners, let's see if Mark lets us get away with this. Right? Didn't the PR company pay a ton for him to be referred to as Mark? Anyway, here's the very beginning. Gather round. Let's trade spooky stories. Here's one you may have heard. Your government is lying to you. It's true. It's happening right now. That's just like the first couple of sentences. And sadly true. Honestly, regardless of whether you're living in Ireland, Iran, India, the United States, we don't have to name all 190 something UN recognized countries.
I've got. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, please.
I've just got a generalized question for you guys. I'm thinking back to specifically. I want to say it's the Invisibles, Ben. There within that comic series or graphic novel series, there's a real struggle between two opposing forces, and it's set up as chaos versus order. I mean, that's simplifying it quite a bit, I would say, on my part. But just what do you guys think about when it comes to the simultaneous chaos and order of humanity, of human society that we're seeing right now over the past couple of years? And like, just what are your, or do you have any thoughts on that? Is one better than the other?
Fingers on a hand. I say this all the time, right? Two things, right? Dichotomies are good for business, whatever the business is. There's a reason that Pepsi contacted Coca-Cola directly when someone tried to sell that proprietary recipe. They knew that it was better overall for these two things to exist in seeming contradiction. And this applies to so many human pursuits. That's my take. If you go back deeper and deeper, I'd like to also highly recommend Saturday Night Live cartoon from back in the day, where, okay, shout out Canyon, also says Ohio. Looks like we're going to Ohio, guys. Back in the day, Saturday Night Live released a wonderful animated piece about the increasing monopolization of media. And right now, if you are hearing this, it's important to know that a lot of the different things you may encounter in the world, regardless of industry, may be owned by just a few players. And that's not necessarily good for things like discourse, for things like honest and critical thought. That's my take.
Well, it's interesting too. I was going to mention a minute ago. I've been watching a lot of murder mystery type things as a result of really enjoying the Knives Out movies and the new one, Glass Onion. And the Glass Onion in that movie title refers to things kind of being hidden in plain sight, and the idea that we ascribe so much attention and like I don't know, expertise to those in power and those that are like exist at these high levels, whether it be tech billionaires or politicians or presidents. And certainly this isn't the case for all of them, but the big kind of joke of it all is that a lot of times those people do not have our best interests at heart, and they're not even that smart. And they've just kind of gotten to that position by stepping on other people and just overall being kind of nasty, the nastiest person in the room who doesn't really care who they hurt to get to that position. And again, not all people in those positions are guilty of this, but it's certainly something to consider. Just to not blindly believe that because someone is made billions and couches or casts themselves as this super genius does not necessarily mean that's the case. Oftentimes, the emperor has no clothes, as Ben, you often say, and I think we all, can make very poignant connections with that fable or that story, the idea of someone parading around thinking that they're the top dog, but in fact everyone sees that there's nothing to it. But unfortunately, a lot of times people don't see that there's nothing to it, and therefore there's those people have a lot of power and can steer hearts and minds and dollars and votes and purchases, but at the end of the day they're not nearly what they present themselves to be.
I'd like to put a positive spin there too in reaction to that. Yeah, the emperor often has no clothes applies as well to culmination of group projects. So I want to give I hope we all want to give a special shout out to the producers who have made Stuff They Don't Want You to Know, the podcast, possible, particularly Paul, Mission Control Decant, and Alexis, codename Doc Holiday Jackson, who really class up the show. We're grateful for them, and we're grateful for you for tuning in. Who could believe it? All these years ago, if you told Matt and I we were going to make a book, we would have probably not believed them. I don't know, Matt. I don't know. How optimistic do we want to be? Last word goes to you, sir.
Farfignugan.
Falafel.
No, I'm just joking. No, yeah, this is I don't know what to say, Ben, really, other than I am supremely excited that there are other people like you, whoever you are watching this right now, that are out there thinking critically about what you take in, whether it's on the news or social media, something your dad says, just thinking about the information you encounter and comparing it to facts you already know, stuff that you can verify, and not taking everything at face value, because there's such a mess of information on the internet, and you will get lost so quickly. I know I do. And just having the tools to be able to think about things critically, that's super important. And I hope that's something that at least some of you, hopefully you, yes, you,
Specifically
hopefully you get a little bit of help with, at least with beep. Wait, I can't beep. Oh God, we're live.
We're live. We're live. That's our first beep.
Oh no, what did I
No,
do?
that's perfect. That's
I'm
perfect,
just hoping
Matt.
you
There's
get
a
some of
glitch
that
in the
from
matrix.
our show. I really hope you get some of that from our show.
So we can. Oh, and thank you, Laura, for congratulating us on the book. We do attempt to address everything with an open hand and an open mind. We can't wait for you to be part of the conversation. We're going to call it a day for now, but please do remember you can always find us on our Facebook page. Here's Where It Gets Crazy. You can find us on Twitter, where we are Conspiracy Stuff. You can also find us via a phone number, 1-833-STD-WYTK, or you can send us a good old-fashioned email, where we are
Conspiracy at iHeartRadio.com.
Just
Wait,
mouthed the words.
yeah,
By the
the-
way,
yeah.
Jennifer says, I was lucky enough to win an advanced copy of the book and really enjoyed it. Well researched and balanced as always. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you to everyone. All right, let's talk soon. Can I?
Hey, this is John Acuff, New York Times best-selling author of 7 books and someone who's done a live signing. If you like the one you just watched, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. It's full of amazing authors having great conversations and signing books for viewers just like you. So make sure you subscribe, and thanks for watching today.